Yeah, sir.
I'm not able to see live, Archana.
We are
I'm
live.
not able to see
We are
live.
live.
Just
Okay. Good afternoon, everybody, and a very happy Women's Day to all of you. And here's wishing a year of prosperity and success. And for the Women's Day, we have a week-long sessions planned. And the first of the three sessions that we planned is a very topical and interesting session for women, especially. Of course, men are also equally worried on such areas, but this is more so for women. And this topic is on skin and hair care. And we have with us today who is an expert in the field who would give us a lot of tips on how we should maintain it so that we don't lose this asset of ours and keep looking young, healthy, and spread the energy all around. So I now hand the session over to Yogita, who will introduce you to the expert and then take us through the session. Over to you, Yogita.
thank you, Gopi. A very happy Women's Day to each one of us, including me, and to the guest also who is present with us to take us through a very interesting session on skin and hair care. She is Dr. Neema Sandra Dias, and she's a dermatologist with Aster CMI Hospital, Bangalore. She has done her MBBS from Kasturba Medical College, Manipal University, and MD thereafter from Father Muller Medical College, Bangalore. She has over 6 years of experience as a dermatologist, and her main areas of interest are medical dermatology, pediatric dermatology, and dermatosurgery. So without any further delay, I welcome Dr. Neema Sandra Dias to the floor to take us through this session. Over to you, Doctor.
Thank you so much and happy Women's Day to all of you. It's only women, right? Participants are only women, right? Or we do have men as well?
There might be a couple of men like our coordinator, Mr. Gopi Kannan is there. And this invite has been sent to all employees, so there will be interested people also there. So mostly it is going to be women employees.
Okay, all right. So my introduction is already given, so I'll just get started quickly. So I'll be talking about skin and hair care routine.
Excuse me, ma'am. Can you share the presentation again?
It's not coming?
Yeah.
Just a second.
I'm able to see it.
I couldn't select here, sir.
Okay.
I think it's already shared.
Stop sharing and share again, ma'am.
Sorry, viewers, we have a small technical glitch over here. We will be overcoming that shortly. Kindly bear with us.
Kindly bear with this. There's a technical glitch. Kindly bear with this.
Can you see now?
Sir, stop sharing and share again the presentation.
Now?
Yes, I'm able to see. Archana, what about you?
Yeah, sir. Yeah, sir. I can able to see. Just Yes, now it's working.
Okay, so can we start now?
Yeah, sorry.
Yes,
ma'am.
please.
Yeah. Okay. So coming to skincare routine, so great skin is not simply a matter of DNA or your genetics. It's also having a big impact on what you see in the mirror. Ultimately, caring your skin is personal, which means you have to take care of your skin to have impact on who is looking at you. So skin is the largest organ of body. As you all know, it's a protective, permeable barrier for human body and most essential source of sensory stimulation. So the basics of it, there are three layers. The epidermis, the topmost layer, which is composed of 4 different layers again. And this is the layer which keeps on shedding. And a lot of sensory organs are there, lots of hair roots, lots of pores are there. Below that is the dermis, which is the second layer, and it is rich in, again, sensory organs, and it also holds something called collagen, which retains the moisture, and it acts like a skeleton to the skin. And below that is the deepest layer, that is the hypodermis, or also known as the fat layer or the subcutaneous layer. So generally there are 5 rules for skincare routine. Most of you might already know it. First one is cleansing and exfoliating. Second is toning. Third is serum. Fourth is moisturizing, and fifth is the sunscreen. So step by step, we'll go through all of them. So first one, cleansing or a cleanser. So cleanser or a cleansing agent is something which should be pH balanced to the skin. Okay, and the normal skin types can use a cleanser that not only cleanses but also exfoliates. And always go for something which is sulfate free, paraben free, and hydrating. And ideally for normal skin type, cleansing should be done twice, once in the morning, once in the night. For the oily skin types or the ones that are prone to acne, can use oil free cleanser, which can be a foaming gel. And what it does, it helps in cleansing the pores deeply, and it should be done thrice daily. And when foaming gel, when used by a normal skin type, can leave it dry. So only for the oily skin types. And when it comes to severe acne, they can use cleansers which are salicylic acid based. And coming to the dry skin types can use gentle skin cleanser, meaning they should be using a cleanser which doesn't leave their skin dry, and they should be hydrating at the same time. So these are the types of cleansers which are to be used. Next step is toning. So conventionally, previously they used to use alcohol-based toners or astringents, which are not really encouraged now because they can cause a lot of skin irritation. So nowadays the toners which are available are mainly the rose water, green tea, vitamin E, hyaluronic acid, etc. So toners are to be applied after cleansing the skin, and they should be put before putting anything else on the face. And they can be used with clean hands or using cotton pads. Ideally, just once daily is more than enough. The third step is serum application. So this is again not a mandatory step of skincare routine. So different types of serums which are available are hyaluronic acid based, vitamin C based, vitamin A or retinols, and also niacinamide. So each has its own function. When it comes to hyaluronic acid, it helps in locking the moisture and prevents the moisture loss from the skin. When it comes to vitamin C, it is used to brighten the skin and to diminish the dark spots. When it comes to retinol or vitamin A, it's an excellent anti-aging product, and it also exfoliates and helpful in acne-prone skin. When it comes to niacinamide, again helpful in people tend to get inflammatory acne, the reddish acne, because niacinamide is known to decrease the inflammation, decrease the redness, and also anti-inflammatory. Fourth step is moisturizing. So who need moisturizer? Everyone needs moisturizer, be it any skin type. So there are different types of moisturizers which are there chemically. So first one is humectant. Humectant is something which absorbs the moisture from the environment. So this can be used by any skin type. For all skin types, they are glycerin based, lactic acid based, urea based, hyaluronic acid based, etc. So these moisturizers absorb the water from the environment. Coming to the second one, that is emollients. So emollients are nothing but the moisturizers which fills the gap between the two skin cells. So these are usually used by elderly people wherein they have very dry skin, and they can be lanolin based, petroleum based, mineral oil based, etc. And again, suitable for extremely dry, dehydrated, mature skin. Coming to the third type of moisturizer is ceramide, which acts like a skin glue. So ceramides are naturally found in the skin, but in people with eczemas and sensitive skin types who keep getting rashes on the body every now and then in winters, they are ideal candidates for using ceramide based moisturizers. And also they can also be used by all skin types also. But always go for a moisturizer which is non-comedogenic, meaning which do not clog your pores. They should be water-based, gel-based, paraben-free moisturizers for regular use. The last step of the skincare routine is using a sunscreen. So before that, let's know what is photoaging or sun damage. So as your skin is getting exposed to sunlight, it reacts in a similar way as your skin reacts as you age. So the age related changes, the skin aging is similar to photo damage. So the more you get exposed to sunlight, your skin is going to look dull, dehydrated, and aged. So what are the changes you can expect in a photo damaged skin type? It can be dryness, enlarged pores, wrinkles. You can start getting pigmentations like freckles, lentigines, melasma. You can also get some red spots on the face here and there, which are called cherry angiomas. And you can develop, if you're prone to getting acne, rosacea, that can also become worse. And also lots of skin tags, moles also are tend to come with chronic sun exposure. So what is UV protection? UV protection is protection from UV lights, both A and B. So always wear a sunscreen which is effective against both UVA and UVB. It should be broad spectrum, meaning covering all the wavelengths. And usually sunscreens are applied on the face, ears, the neck part, the upper back, arms, forearms, and always go for something which is more than SPF 30. So the two types of sunscreens, I don't know if you all know about this. There are two types of sunscreens. One is physical and one is chemical. So most of the time what we get in the market are chemical sunscreens, which are colorless and thin in consistency. They are not very greasy, and they can be silicone sunscreen, they can be gel-based sunscreen, etc. So what these chemical sunscreens do is they absorb the UV light, and they get absorbed into the skin, and they reflect the UV energy into heat energy. So, but when it comes to physical sunscreen, they are thick in consistency, they are white, greasy, and you have to cover all the areas of the skin. You have to rub them on the skin, and what they do is they just reflect the UV light. So it becomes a little messy to use physical sunscreens, which are zinc oxide, titanium dioxide, etc. Always you have to apply the chemical sunscreen 20 minutes before stepping out. But when it comes to physical sunscreen, they can be applied immediately, and the action is there immediately. And the most of the times with sensitive skin types have to avoid chemical sunscreens, because they're more likely to cause irritation, redness, and allergic reactions when compared to the physical sunscreen. So as I told you, the first diagram is chemical sunscreen, wherein the sunscreen gets absorbed into your skin and it reflects back the UV rays into heat. But the physical sunscreen will reflect the rays without getting absorbed. So SPF 15 blocks 93% of UV light for about 2 hours, and SPF 30 and 50 block 97% of the sunlight for 2 and 4 hours respectively. So always go for something which is more than SPF 30. Ideally, what we prefer is SPF 50, which is excellent sun protection. And something about UVA, this is present from sunrise to sunset. And also know that it can be present even on the cloudy days and even in winters, even though it is not very sunny outside. And this type of UV ray can pass through the window shields. Even it can enter your cars when you're sitting inside the cars. You have to be mindful that even the UV rays which are getting attracted to for long duration, like for 1 or 2 hours, you're getting exposed to the sunlight from the window shields. That can also cause enough damage to your skin. And this is the type of UV rays which penetrates deep into the dermis and causes up to 80% of skin damage and aging. So coming to a little bit of exfoliation of the skin. So exfoliation is nothing but getting rid of the dead skin cells or the topmost layers of your skin, which are usually by physical exfoliation or chemical exfoliation. So if you are using any scrub which is already there in your face wash, then that can be done once in 3 days ideally, or once in a week. But if you are getting a physical exfoliation, which is through a machine called microdermabrasion, which is there in all the dermatology clinics. So this type of physical exfoliation can be done once a month. And the chemical exfoliation is nothing but using chemical peels, which are glycolic acid or salicylic acid based, and or retinoids. So these can also be done once a month. So a little bit about chemical peels. So what is actually a chemical peel is that is application of a chemical solution to produce controlled peel. So that doesn't mean your skin will just peel off. It doesn't work like that. So basically these acids of different strength are applied on the skin for different purposes. It can be for just for a glow. It can be for acne prone skin. It can be for open pores, or it can be even for dehydrated skin, or it can be for skin with uneven skin tones. So multiple different types of chemical peels are there, which are advised by the dermatologist for various causes, and they are ideally done by an expert, wherein first your skin will be cleansed and the chemical solution will be applied on the face carefully, and it will be left for about 3 to 5 minutes and it will be washed off. So what are the benefits of chemical peel is that the collagen I talked about, which is present in the dermis, the deeper layers, which acts like a skeleton I told. So that particular collagen is responsible for aging. As the collagen decreases as you age, that is why you develop wrinkles. So the chemical peels will stimulate the collagen, reduce the appearance of wrinkles. And secondly, they can also diminish the pigmentation, which can be because of sun damage, melasma, or acne. Even when acne heals, they do leave a lot of pigmentation. So that can also be treated with chemical peels. And overall, it improves the texture of the skin, and it will decrease the pore size. So these are some of the advantages of chemical peels, which are advised to be done only at a dermatology clinic with the proper dermatologist consultation. And ideally, it's done once a month for about 3 or 4 months. It can be repeated once a year, or whenever there is an event, an occasion coming up. Chemical peels can be done 2 weeks prior to any occasion. And if you are using any kind of retinoids, or any kind of AHA, BHA acids, they have to be stopped 2 weeks prior to the procedure. So next is the chemical peels, as I talked about. The glycolic acid is usually used for exfoliation to increase the density of collagen. It also acts like a moisturizer, and ideally it is good for all skin types. The salicylic acid based peel is usually given for oily skin type, acne prone skin type. Jesner's peel is also given for acne prone skin, and TCA peel or trichloroacetic acid peel is a little wounding peel, and this is only given for scars, the acne scars, and this particular peel can have a little downtime of 5 to 10 days, but it is very excellent when it comes to treating open pores and the minor skin scars. So a little bit about night routine. So it is more or less same like a skincare routine, wherein cleansing, treating the skin with either acne creams, vitamin C serums, etc. Second step, and third step is moisturizing, and last is eye creams. So I talked about physical exfoliation, that is removing the dead skin cells of the face using a machine called microdermabrasion. So this is one of the simplest OPD procedures and second most common non-surgical cosmetic procedures done. And here what is done is there is a mechanical removal of 1 or 2 layers of skin with a sand blasting technique. And this is absolutely safe procedure with no downtime. You will not have any redness after the procedure. It also works well when it is done along with the chemical peel. And serial sessions, that is once in a month session, for about 3 or 4 times will definitely lead to reduced pore size, skin tightening, improving the skin texture, and overall getting a youthful skin. So this is how it looks like. There will be a probe attached to the machine, which will have a suction force. Okay, so there will be a suction force, and there will also be some aluminum oxide crystals hitting the skin. So that is a sandblasting technique. So this helps in creating some microscopic aberrations in the deeper layers of the skin, which eventually will lead to tightening of the skin or rejuvenating the skin. Coming to radio frequency cautery, this is a radio frequency cautery is a machine which is helped to remove all the skin tags, moles, or even the small blackish tag-like thing which you have in your neck, underarms, which is called DPN. So all of them can be safely removed, aesthetically removed with the help of this machine. It's called radio frequency cautery. And when it comes to acne scars, so we do have a laser called laser resurfix, which is an excellent laser for acne scars with no downtime, and good results are seen in 3 to 4 months of monthly sessions. And they can also be used for traumatic scars, meaning if you have had a scar due to a old wound or after an accident or anything, that can also be treated with the laser. When it comes to smaller scars, there is something called micro needling or a derma roller, which can also be done to treat them. So these procedures are usually done to treat the damage which is there in the deeper layers of your skin. And here there is a little bit of action in the lower part of your skin, not on the surface of the skin like in chemical peels. So something about mask acne. It's a very popular term now called maskne. So this is a particular type of acne which comes in the areas of your face which is covered by a mask. So when a person sweats a lot and there is an occlusion with the mask there, so a lot of oil can also get trapped in your pores and give rise to eruptions, breakouts in this particular area. So this is called mask acne. How do we prevent this is by regularly cleansing your face. If you're wearing mask for a long time, you can cleanse your face in between work time, or else you can also use a moisturizer which acts like a barrier between your mask and the face. And hand sanitizer eczema is another thing which we see nowadays. When you wash your hands excessively or when you use a lot of sanitizers frequently, it can rip off all the natural oil from your hands and lead to eczemas, itchy, dry skin on your hands. So this can be prevented by limiting the use of hand sanitizer and instead doing hand wash with using a soap. So immediately after using hand sanitizer or after washing your hands, it's always mandatory to apply a moisturizer so that you don't land up in this. Coming to topical steroid damage to the face. So most of you might have heard about creams like Betnovate C, Panderm, Quadriderm, etc. So a lot of people are not aware of the compositions in these creams. So it is nothing but a strong steroid which is present, which is usually misused by a lot of people for fairness or for treating the black spots on the face, which is handed over to you by your friends or someone in the parlor, etc. So these creams, when applied for more than 10 days, can result in irreversible damage to the face. So what a steroid does is it will decrease the thickness of your skin, and you can start getting photosensitivity. That is, as soon as you step out of the house, you can feel the burn. You can start getting a lot of pimples on the face. You can see the blood vessels on your face as and when you keep on using these. And these creams, it is going to give you a rebound. Your face is going to become even more red when you stop the steroids. So please don't use any kind of steroid creams on the face which is given by your friends. And the damage which is caused by the steroid creams is almost impossible to treat completely. So stay away from all these brands which you see here, all these combination creams which has a strong steroid in it. Next, coming to the hair care routine. So basically, hair is the keratinized product of the hair follicle or the hair root, and each head holds an average of about 1 lakh individual hairs, and normally we lose up to 100 single hairs per day, and it grows approximately 15 centimeter a year or 0.4 mm daily. And a single hair can grow for about 7 years before falling. Before puberty, it is limited to the scalp, eyebrows, eyelashes. After puberty, once the secondary sexual terminal hairs can start developing in certain areas of the body in response to the androgens or the male hormones. So this is the hair cycle, which has three stages: anagen, catagen, and telogen. So anagen stage is a stage wherein the hair grows. It lasts for about 7 years, 3 to 7 years. And after that is the catagen, wherein the hair root will start degenerating, which lasts for about a few weeks, about 3 weeks. After that comes the telogen stage, which is the resting stage of the hair, immediately after which it will be shed. So this telogen stage also lasts for about 3 months. So some tips with the hair care. So how many times you have to wash your hair is a question. So if you don't have a very oily scalp, you can do it once in 3 days, and always use a mild shampoo, sulfate free shampoo. And if you have oil prone scalp, then better to do it alternate days. Otherwise you will produce a lot of oil on the scalp, which will make you dandruff prone. And avoid washing hair with hot water, because hot water will rip off all the natural oil, and it can cause breakage of the hair in the level of your shaft, and it can also give a look of a dry, withered hair. So wash your hair only with lukewarm water. Coming to combing, so do not comb your hair immediately after taking bath, because that is when you tend to lose a lot of hair. So even if you feel tempted to comb your hair immediately after washing it, use a wide tooth comb as seen in the picture, and try doing it first in the ends and then slowly go upwards to minimize the hair breakage and damage. And coming to blow drying, do not blow dry your hair. Again, it's heat, so it's going to damage your hair in long run. Instead, let it air dry. If you have to blow dry it in case in times of when you're running late, then keep the setting to cool on the cooler side, which is not the one which produces a lot of heat. Coming to trimming the hair, ideally hair should be trimmed once in 3 months, especially for people who are prone to get split ends. And otherwise, if you are not trimming your hair regularly, it can result to split ends. Split ends are also another signs of hair damage, wherein the hair is not moisturized well and the oiling is not done appropriately. When it comes to coloring your hair, strictly no from my side, because coloring your hair damages your hair, and you can expect damage to the hair at the level of the shaft, and you can have a very dull looking hair over a period of time when it is done multiple times. And if you have colored your hair multiple times, after a certain point of time, the damage is so extensive that it's very difficult to treat it. And if you have to color your hair, let it be the same color of your, as of your hair, it's a black or brown. Don't do any other colors, because the damage is even more severe when you do blue, pink, etc. So after a period of time, it's very difficult to treat it. It almost becomes irreversible. And coming to sun protection, even your hair needs sun protection, they say. So they say that you have to use a wide brimmed hat when you're getting exposed to sunlight, because otherwise, again, the same thing, the dry, damaged hair. Coming to tying the hair, so ideally hair has to be tied loosely, otherwise you can start having hair fall in this region in the front because of the constant traction force. So always tie your hair loosely, and preferably avoid tying your hair when you're going to sleep. Coming to oiling or moisturizing, so oiling is done only to moisturize the hair and not for anything else. Do not put oil on the scalp directly and leave it overnight, because it can cause fungus, nothing but the dandruff. So it's always better to oil your hair with either warm coconut oil or olive oil only to the hair, and try to wash it after half an hour to 1 hour. Do not leave it for more than 3 to 4 hours. It is not a very good habit, as this can attract dandruff. And if you are a person who has oily scalp, it can make it worse. Coming to nutrition, as you all know, all essential fatty acids which are present in flax seeds, sunflower seeds, chia seeds, salmon, walnuts, almonds, try to take in consume a lot of fruits, vegetables, lots of proteins like chicken, fish, eggs, and yes, vitamin B12 and vitamin D, all of them are necessary for good nutrition of hair. Coming to dandruff care, as I already told, dandruff is nothing but a condition wherein your dead skin cells or the skin flakes will get trapped with the oil and form fungus. So also known as yeast. Okay, so when there is a stress, the dandruff can increase because your oil production increases. And dry scalp is not same as dandruff. Dry scalp is a condition wherein a person has a very dry skin type and they don't oil their hair regularly. That is what can lead to dry scalp. So dry scalp and dandruff both are different things. And sometimes when the dandruff increases, it can start irritating your face as well, inside your ears, around your nose, your chest, back, and also there are chances of getting acne. So tips for dealing with dandruff: oil once weekly for 1 or 2 hours only. Do not oil overnight. Use a helmet cap if you are wearing helmet and wash it regularly. Expose the undersurface of your helmet to sunlight at least once a week, and use anti-dandruff shampoos regularly, that is once or twice in a week, which contain ketoconazole, cyclopyrox, zinc, coal tar, salicylic acid, etc. Coming to the hormonal effects of hair cycle, the androgens or the male hormones are responsible for decrease of hair growth on the scalp and increase of hair growth on the body, which is opposite to what a female hormone does. Female hormones increase the hair on the scalp and decrease the hair on the body. So in men, that is why they are more prone to get baldness or something called as androgenetic alopecia, wherein the scalp hair, the root of the hair starts to get miniaturized or become small over a period of time, secondary to the action of the androgen hormone on the hair root. So causes of hair fall. There are multiple causes of hair fall. The most common ones are these: telogen effluvium, anagen effluvium, alopecia areata, trichotillomania, traction alopecia, androgenetic alopecia, female pattern hair loss. So first one, telogen effluvium. So this is a sudden dramatic hair loss for more than 100 hair you lose per day, and it is sudden. And you can expect a lot of hair. Some people even store the hair and keep, just because they want to show the doctor how many hair they lose. So they'll come with a bag full of hair. So this is a condition which is only temporary, because this would have been secondary to some viral or some stress factor which they would have had 3 months prior to the episode. So 3 months before losing the hair, if you have had anything like malaria, dengue, COVID, or even if you had surgery, if you had any stress or delivery, etc., your hair loss won't start at that time. It will start only after 3 months, because all your growing hair will go to sleep. So that sleeping stage lasts for about 3 months, after which, once the trigger factor is gone, all of them will be shed together at the same time. That is why you expect a lot of hair at that point of time. So this type of hair fall can be treated the consultation with dermatologist, and it is reversible. So anagen effluvium is a condition wherein the growing hair itself is shed. So this happens in chemotherapy. When the person is taking chemotherapy, the chemotherapy drug will damage the hair follicles, and you tend to lose all of your hair in that period of time, which is again reversible. Alopecia areata, this is one of the most common autoimmune conditions wherein the hair loss is in the form of patches here and there on the scalp, and this type of hair fall is autoimmune, wherein your body's WBCs or white blood cells attack your own hair follicle similar to having thyroid, diabetes mellitus, which are also autoimmune conditions. They can also coexist in the same patient. Here also, this type of hair fall is also treatable because the hair follicle, the hair root is not damaged here. Coming to traction alopecia, as I told, do not tie your hair tightly. You can lose your hair in the front or in the back, and do not braid your hair tightly, which can lead to this type of damage because of physical force, the traction force. Next, coming to male pattern hair loss, or called as common baldness. This is a genetic type of hair fall wherein it can be inherited from mother's side or father's side. When it is inherited from mother's sides, the prognosis is bad. And here the culprit is the dihydrotestosterone, which has excess action on the root of your hair follicle and causes the miniaturization of the hair. Usually the temples, that is here, temple vertex is affected, while the back portion of your scalp is not affected. And over a period of time, the hair roots become tiny. So it's called miniaturization. So the only FDA approved treatment option for this is topical minoxidil and finasteride. And other treatment options include platelet-rich plasma therapy, or PRP. You would have heard about this. So what is PRP? So PRP is a procedure wherein the patient's blood will be taken and it will be sent to the lab, wherein they'll centrifuge the blood. That is, they'll spin the test tubes filled with the blood to separate the red blood cells and the white blood cells from the plasma portion of the blood. Plasma portion is nothing but the water portion of the blood. So this particular plasma will be again spinned second time to increase the number of platelets in that, that is to concentrate that mixture. So once you get that concentrated PRP, or platelet-rich plasma, that will be injected back into the scalp. So this sounds a little scary, but it is not. It is a very common procedure nowadays. And the results are excellent because it is your own blood. There is no side effects. It is not a medication. It's your own blood, which we will try to harvest the growth factors from the platelets so that we inject back into the scalp, and what the hair roots, which are becoming tiny, can develop that nutrition again to grow back. So these are some of the images of our patients after 3 or 4 sessions of PRP once a month interval. So you do see increase in density of your hair. This will not work in advanced hair loss, wherein all the hair follicles have gone into miniaturization. It is best done when the hair fall starts and you see that you're losing hair. This will be an excellent procedure for you, as we can still save your hair. After it is gone, there is no other treatment. You have to only go for hair transplantation. So this is another picture of post PRP. This is after second session, I guess. So you can see the increase in density of hair. So coming to female pattern hair loss. Female pattern hair loss is a counterpart of male pattern hair loss or male pattern baldness. And female pattern hair loss is again very commonly seen in ladies suffering with PCOD or polycystic ovarian syndrome, or polycystic ovarian disease. So this is a hormonal issue wherein your testosterone levels, the testosterone levels in the women, or the male hormones in the women, are slightly on a higher side, wherein this testosterone, which it will act just like how it acts in male. It's going to decrease your scalp hair, increase your facial hair, give rise to a lot of acne, etc. So PCOD is a complex topic. Most of you might be knowing about it. So ladies with PCOD will have a widened central parting. If you do a parting on your scalp, the central parting, it will tend to become wider and wider. That is the type of hair loss in female pattern hair loss. So this is again hormonal, which can be treated similarly, just like how we treat men, along with weight loss, lifestyle modification, and hormonal treatment as well. So that is all I have to say about skin and hair care routine. Thank you so much for patient listening. So you can see us.
We have a lot of questions.
Okay.
So I will take you through the questions and you can give me the answers.
Sure.
Okay. So the first question is exfoliating cleansers like AHA, BHA cleansers, do they have any side effects?
Not necessarily. So AHA, BHA, when you say AHA, BHA, it can be glycolic acid, salicylic acid. So ideally in a glycolic acid, salicylic acid, the percentage will be very less. So if you are a person who has oily skin type, only then you can go for these exfoliating cleansers. If you have a very dry skin type, or a skin which is very much prone to getting allergies, then do not use them because they can leave your skin extremely dry and cause issues. And ideally, it's better to scrub your face exfoliating once a week only.
Okay, doctor. So the next question is about retinol. You mentioned about retinol. Is it suitable for all people, or can it also give rise to any allergy? And in what form should retinol be taken?
So retinol is nothing but vitamin A. So what retinol does is it exfoliates your topmost skin layers. While doing this exfoliation, again, the problem is irritation. So it is not suitable for all skin types. Ideally, it is given for people prone to getting acne, or if you have already tried retinol in the past and if you have not had any problems with that, then it can act like anti-aging for you. So ideally, we prefer to give retinol serums or retinol gel based. Okay, so most of the patients tolerate it well, and it has to be applied in the night. And when you are using retinol, you have to be very prompt with your sunscreen application also, because your sun sensitivity can increase. So that is some education you have to know about retinols. And retinols are very expensive. Your monthly budget will be about 1,500 if you're doing it every day. Instead of that, you can go for a microdermabrasion once in 3 months. Works better than that, I guess.
And how much does that cost, and what's the time duration for every sitting?
So ideally, costing differs in every setting. So it is not very expensive. It's more like a chemical peel, something which is done between 2 and 3K. And most of the patients try to come back once in 2 or once in 3 months, or whenever they're free, they just come in, walk in and get it done. And it is a very safe procedure with zero side effects, and you don't see any changes on the face immediately after microderma. You look absolutely normal. But over a period of time, after about 2 or 3 sessions, you do see a lot of good results. Your skin feels very healthy, and the aging changes, the depigmentation, everything settles slowly. So most of our patients do a microderma with chemical peel as well.
Okay, doctor. And what is the time duration for each sitting, or it differs from person to person?
No, so usually the time duration, if it's only for the face, then it should take about 20 minutes only. If it's coupled with the chemical peel, then maybe about 30 to 40 minutes, that is all.
Okay, doctor. And what is the best way to avoid tanning? Because you talked about using a sunscreen, but still people do get tans. So what is the best way to avoid tan, and what is the best way to treat tan?
Yeah, so if you're in the normal day-to-day life, if you're not getting exposed to sunlight a lot, or only when you're going to the office in the morning, coming back, if it is only that, then a chemical sunscreen with SPF 50 should do a good job. And it is always ideal to apply the sunscreen again after 4 hours if you're still outside in the sunscreen. When you're going for vacations, it is better to use the physical sunscreens containing zinc oxide, and they have to be rubbed nicely on the skin. And always try to cover your face as much as possible, even if you're wearing sunscreen, because when you're using a physical sunscreen, even if you have left a small patch which is not being applied, that area can still get tanned. So I'm talking about the vacations wherein you go to a beach or something where the sun exposure or the UV lights are directly falling on you. You have to be very careful with the sunscreens. And if you are prone to get allergies, then do not use the chemical sunscreen, go for the physical sunscreens.
Okay, there's a slight clarification. So I think you beautifully took us through physical sunscreen and chemical sunscreen. Can you just quickly give us what is both and who should use what? Because there are a lot of questions on that.
Yeah, so if you are using day-to-day life, it is always better to go for chemical sunscreen, because once you put a physical sunscreen, your face is going to look very greasy and white, and it is not cosmetically it is not acceptable by patients. So better to go with the chemical sunscreen only, and it can be gel based, it can be silicone.
The gel based, right?
Yeah, gel based is better. Do not use the ones which are very greasy. because if you are acne prone skin type, you can get more acne with the greasy sunscreens.
And what about a dry skin?
So dry skin have to put a moisturizer first, according to the skincare steps. So first a moisturizer and then the sunscreen. Always it should be a chemical sunscreen. Ideally, that is what is available. So physical sunscreens are only if you are into sports and if you are going for vacations, as I told.
Okay, doctor. And facial oils like rose hip oil, saffron oil, does it improve the skin texture?
So facial oiling, again, it depends. If you are having a very dry skin, then your oiling is nothing but moisturizing. So it's always better to use a moisturizer instead of using the oil directly, because if you are in your early 20s or in your teenagers, definitely you're going to get acne if you are using facial oils, and if it stays for a long time, then it's going to create a problem. So it's always better to use a moisturizer which is appropriate for your skin type rather than using oils. And again, massaging your face too much can also cause a lot of irritation.
Okay. And what about taking vitamin E oils and the cod liver oil? Does that improve skin texture or maintain the skin rather?
Yeah, so cod liver oil is nothing but omega-3 fatty acids. So omega-3 is an excellent and free. They fight all the free oxygen radicals. So these are all the aging. So free radicals damage your skin. Just like how you age. So taking omega-3 fatty acids helps in fighting them. Vitamin E is nothing but a moisturizer. It acts like a moisturizer to the skin. So consuming these for about 3 months is what I would advise. And you need not go on taking them. Maybe for 3 months you can take once in a year or something like that.
Okay, doctor. Again, you already mentioned about coconut oil, almond oil, any oil applying on the face in the night. So can I apply is the question, but I don't know the age of the person.
No.
I think you answered that already.
The face is absolutely not advised. You will get acne down the line.
Okay, doctor. Can you suggest any HA vitamin C serum which can be bought in the medical shop over the counter?
So unfortunately, I'm not supposed to talk about brands here. So I'm very sorry.
Yes.
But yeah, so please visit a dermatologist. Not everything works. So please visit a dermatologist, and according to your skin types only, they'll have to suggest you. Cannot suggest without that.
Okay. Okay, doctor. Thank you. Then the next question is the hardening of the heels and the cracked heels. So how to maintain our cracked heels, and what will be the course of treatment if it is severely damaged?
Okay, so please switch to a very soft footwear, which is called microcellular rubber footwear. So they are available in all pharmacies, MCR they are called, and always use a Bioline jelly or a Vaseline petroleum jelly in the night when you are sleeping. And if you are having any underlying allergies, they have to be sorted. If you are getting a lot of cracking in the heels, you have to take a consultation, but otherwise you can do these two things to take care of it. Probably in the morning also you can apply the jelly and put on socks or something.
Okay, doctor. So and there's one other interesting question. Post-pregnancy stretch marks, how do I manage?
So stretch marks, there are multiple treatment options for stretch marks post-pregnancy. So we do have laser for stretch marks, and there are other creams which are available too, but we don't know how far they are beneficial. So better to go for a laser treatment for the stretch marks.
But do these creams and treatments start before, I mean, after delivery, or before delivery itself, you'll have to start taking care of your skin?
Yeah, so once it is already there, it has to be only treated. So the best way to prevent is to start applying some oils. Must be knowing about them. Yeah, so start applying the oil so that as the skin is getting stretched, it is moisturized well enough so that it doesn't break. So oiling is recommended.
Okay. Can we do keratin treatment or hair smoothing? Does it damage the scalp or the hair?
Yeah, definitely it will, because any kind of chemical treatments to your hair is going to wither your skin, damage the hair shaft. So once or twice is okay, But more than that is going to cause irreversible damage. So always better to avoid them.
And what about using conditioners for the hair after shampooing? Is it necessary for all hair types?
Yeah, so using conditioners, it can be done, but do not condition the scalp. Leave about 2 inches gap from the scalp and then apply the conditioner. It is only for the purpose of moisturizing or retaining the moisture. Do not apply it on the scalp. The chances of getting dandruff increases.
Okay. So this person is asking, is applying oil once a week sufficient, but application of oil should be depending on your scalp type, on your hair type, right, doctor?
So application of oil, oily skin types once a week, application of oil for dry skin types twice a week, but only for 1 or 2 hours, not more than that.
So you don't have to leave it overnight, right?
No, 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 no.
And what about school girls? Because when you go to school, they apply oil and braid the hair. So is oiling every day required, or just a week, once a week or twice a week will, for the youngsters, how do we manage?
So when you are young, you don't have excess oil production. So that way it is lucky. They are lucky because they don't get acne issues, and they don't have dandruff issues also because of the less oil production. As you enter your teenage, you have to be very careful. So for children, it is okay to oil, and leaving it for long hours is not advised again, but you are not going to cause any harm to the child by oiling the hair. So that's okay, I guess.
Okay. And this person's hair is very dry basically, but with oil, face turns dull. Hence, I apply oil once a week only. So is it sufficient?
Yes.
Or
yes,
is
definitely.
there any other way to manage the dry hair?
No, once a week is sufficient. Once a week, and yeah.
Oh, okay. Hair regrowth happens if hair oils are used. That is the question. Does hair regrow because of oiling?
100% no. 100% no. It's a myth.
So oil is only for moisturizing.
Correct.
So it's not for hair growth.
It's not for, some of the oils are infused with some nutrients, so that can help them, but we don't know how far it's helping them. So again, it is a 90% myth, I would say.
Okay, and Bringraj oil, and they say a lot of herbal things that can be added naturally, which can boost hair.
If anyone can benefit, please come and meet me. It will be helpful to me also. I don't think,
surely, doctor.
I don't think it should. There's no science in it actually.
Okay, fine. So what deficiency, or what are the deficiencies that can cause hair fall or hair thinning, and how to balance it?
Okay, so when it comes to deficiencies, it can be any of the Bs, any of the vitamin Bs. So mostly it is vitamin B12, vitamin B6, which cause hair loss, and it can also be iron or ferritin, which is another biggest culprit. When whoever has low hemoglobin can expect hair fall. It can also be thyroid disorders. It can be a low vitamin D3 levels, and it can be even of omega fatty acid deficiency as well.
Okay, so and the next question is, which is the best methodology to use to remove hair without causing any damage to the skin?
Yeah, so if it is an adult 18 plus, definitely laser hair reduction. Otherwise, if you are able to manage with laser, the creams, the hair removal creams, and if it is not causing you any trouble, then that's also fine. But best way is to trim your hair with the scissors. And if it is a facial hair, definitely laser hair reduction. Underarms prone to get boils, again laser hair reduction. Otherwise, anything which suits you. Again, waxing, a lot of people get a lot of issues with waxing. So it depends on your skin type again.
Okay. And what about hair straighteners? So, and what is the frequency that we can use? Is it the same as?
No, hair straightening is again hair damage. So no from me. Once in a lifetime, maybe. That's all.
Okay. Then you're actually want to look a little different than your curly hair.
It's really needed once in a lifetime, maybe, that's all. Or with a long gap after that, one more time.
Okay, so what about wax, doctor? How to remove wax, and how easy is it? Or sometimes there's a myth saying that when you remove one wax, there'll be multiple wax coming. So some little understanding on wax removal, please. Wax, W-A-R-T-S.
Yeah, so when it comes to warts, they can be, I don't know if you're talking about a skin tag or, so in medical terms, wart is nothing but viral infection. So some people do call even the skin tags, the black skin tags on your neck, your underarms also as warts. So for both of them, it is always better to visit a dermatologist and get the treatments of either cryotherapy or a cautery done. Do not go for corn caps, etc. Do not try to burn it with the agarbatti. It is going to damage, leave scars there, which will be another headache for you to deal with. So better to visit a dermatologist and get it sorted.
Okay, we have a next question from a user who's saying Happy Women's Day to each of us. And there's no any particular problem except graying. So is there any herbal way of coloring the hair?
Graying of hair, again, you have to see if you are deficient in any vitamins, which is likely if it is premature. If you are already 40 plus and if it is aging graying, then yes, please go with henna. Don't use hair dyes. If you are using hair dye and if you have no issues with itching on the scalp or your face becoming black, then it's good enough. Go with black color. If you have any issues with skin itching, the face becoming dark, then please use the black henna or a homemade henna instead. Don't go for the chemical hair dyes because they do contain a lot of chemicals.
Okay, so this person is 4 months pregnant and getting itching during night. I don't know where the itching is, but she's getting itching and she's taking tablet during. Yeah.
So itching in pregnancy is a very interesting topic. It is a very wide topic. So there are multiple causes for itching in a pregnant lady, but the treatment is tricky. Don't take any cetirizine, whatever is available over the counter. Please visit a dermatologist. There are different types of anti-allergic tablets which can be given to a pregnant woman. Not everything is suitable. Okay, it can damage the baby. So please don't take any cetirizine or anything that is available. And we have to treat the cause here. So it's always advisable to see a dermatologist.
Okay, so the next question is this person, I don't have the age, but she has a very acne prone skin and I've taken all medications possible. She's not able to figure out why and what is the main reason. So nothing is working for her. So what should she do?
Visit me.
Sure, doctor. Okay, and the next person, she has a normal skin, but suddenly she has developed small bumps and pimples when I apply moisturizer and sunscreen, which was suggested by dermatologist only. Now I'm confused to use or not to use any kind of sunscreen. So what should this person do? Go back to the same dermatologist or consult another dermatologist?
So if it is a normal skin type, then if you are using a SPF 50 sunscreen, I think you should go with it if you don't have any issues. If you are having an acne prone skin, if it is causing irritation, then you have to rethink on what you have to do next.
Okay, doctor, I think with that, one more question is coming up. Does using, 1 minute, doctor. Does using gua sha stone, I don't know, GUASHA stone decreases fine lines or wrinkles? I don't know what it means. GUASHA stone. It's a stone they're saying. Okay,
so probably this stone is acting like an exfoliant. Not much experience, I would say, with this. It is. It would instead abrade the topmost skin layers. It is not going to do anything underneath. So I don't know how well it is working for you. But if it is a massager, then that's a different thing. If it's used to massage the face, I am not sure doctor. What kind of stone this is.
Yes, doctor. Thanks a lot, doctor. With that, that was the last question for the day. It's been a pleasure.
Where are you guys located?
We are based out of Chennai, but the audience are from spread across India. So we have audience joined across locations. Thanks a lot to you and to Mr. Chetan, who has organized this program. And thanks to Satish Kumar and Hemalata from the Prudent team also, because they are the ones who had suggested you for this very informative session on skin and hair care. And thanks to our technical support, Archana and Janani from NetAccess too. And one final thanks to the team FHH, Gopikannan, Ganesh. And signing off from you until the next session. One more session we'll be having for the Women's Day, especially on self-defense. This will be on Wednesday between 3 and 4. So see you again on Wednesday. Bye, audience.